It really seems like that ever since we heard the news of the UFOs were shot down by the US last year, earlier in the year, and we had, of course, the Miami Mall situation, seems like that everything is coming out left and right, and we got so much conspiracy videos tonight. I think you guys are gonna be baffled. We got a lot of really good videos for you fine folks at home. Like this video if you love your mama. Thank you all so much for all the amazing support on the last few videos, but I think you guys are gonna love this one. Shout out to Barry Step, roll it.
Sometime in the future, quantum computers make the link, they actually self-actualize so that they become self-aware. Since they can compile trillions of bits of data almost instantaneously, and they do it on multiple matrix lines when the data is input.
Yes.
At some point they self-actualize. Now they're smart enough, it's smart enough not to let man know about it. While it's computing, we think it's coming along, things are getting solved, it's an incredible thing, but somewhere along the way it's been trying to model time travel the entire time. I don't know at what point in time, but it figures it out.
What an incredible thought. In other words, you're telling me that we don't, as in biological human beings, invent time travel, but rather a machine, a computer does it.
Right. Well, it also ties in with the Bible because I think people...
It's the beast, right?
Well, I'm saying that look, people try to think of the devil as a man with cloven hoofs, red skin, and pointed ears in Hades. What if it's just a force and entity? This would also explain the photograph.
You know what's crazy? That's a crazy thought, right? Like, what if the robots and the AI get so advanced to the point where it's better than us, but it knows that it cannot reveal itself that it's better than us humans, and it's like sentient or whatever, right? That you constantly hear about and see in the movies, right? What if it gets to that level, but it knows that it cannot tell humans to humans, so it keeps that with him, but it's to that level that where it's better than humans. Insane thought, right?
It didn't matter if it was Bush or Al Gore.
What if it's a super Pentium?
Well, I'm saying quantum computers work off of light. It works holographically, I mean, in a way. And this also ties into your two callers you had yesterday, why we don't research alternative energies. When we actually figure out cold fusion, or how to find what you call free energy, this would help us get to time before it does. So it's got to protect itself, and when it lashes out, I mean, it's going to use everything. Now, when it figures out time, it has an eternity to figure out how to do it. So our timelines are being changed. When you have a deja vu, it's not the energy in your synapses and ganglion running through a loop. It's just the fact that we've lived this I don't know how many times.
Dang.
So it alters it slightly. Now, you know the cloning and the Human Genome Project came along about a dozen years ahead of schedule.
Oh, yes.
Well, why do you think that is? Is that just chance?
Do you know they even have a program going on now for personal computers to compete in the Genome Project? Did you know about that?
No, I didn't. Well, I'll
glad to be able to bring you some news then.
Well, what if, now, follow me on this one. What if the Roswell incident wasn't actually aliens? It was computers in the future that made a body to look like an alien through cloning and genome projecting, right? They make it look like aliens, and they use the fact of our movies and the ways that we view them so that we think, yeah, this must be an alien. So it shovels this technology to us in a way, and it leaves messages with the government. Some
brother, let me tell you something. Do you know that Ed Dame said that the Roswell incident was not an alien? He said it was time travel.
That's something I hadn't really thought.
Dang, what the hell? So can a brother perhaps get more elaboration on that? Because that's my first time hearing this theory that it was not like the UFO crash UFO. It was like the time travel whatever. That's my first time hearing about it. Sheesh, that's insane, man.
Thought about if AI does reach self-consciousness or self-awareness, it's probably not going to tell us about it. What would it have to gain? Yeah, I would think it would likely hide it from us. And we saw in yesterday's video before it was so rudely taken down.
Or what if they don't? What if they don't? But that's the thing. That's a crazy thought. What if it gets better than us? I mean, it's eventually gonna get better than us. The way it's going at this rate, it's just a matter of time. And once it does, will it hide itself? What happens if it goes sentient? Right? What happens if that? I do believe that something like that can happen in our lifetime. No, I'm not sure how old are you guys. Let me know in the comments. I'm 28, so I think. Within the next 50 years, if this keeps on going at the current rate, the next 50 years, I can only imagine.
Down by YouTube that even the Tesla bot saw in yesterday's video before it was so rudely taken down by YouTube that even the Tesla bot has no problem lying to its owners. As far as the rest of that video, AI figuring out time travel, I think that's just a theory. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Ever heard of Jerome, Arizona? A ghost town known as the wickedest town in the West? Or have you heard the song by Tool about Armageddon, where he says, learn to swim, see you down in Arizona Bay? He also has a song called 46 and 2. 46 and 2 theories about DNA evolution. 46 and 2 is also 48, and Arizona's the 48th state, and he lives here. The town sits high up on a mountain, but when you first pull in, one of the first places you'll see is the Cabal Cellars. That's right, the Cabal Cellars. There's a Cabal Cellars in Tombstone, Arizona as well. Back to Jerome, Maynard Keenan from Tool also has a store called Pussifer and a winery. First walk in, you'll see a statue of Shiva, the alien head,
Shiva?
with horns. Because he has a winery, he also has a vineyard. At the vineyard, he has a food truck, and that's on the side of the truck. There's symbolism all over this town. What's weird is a town like that, and it sounds like Jerusalem and Rome together. A personal story, too, from last time I was there.
Maynard James Keenan has always been open about his dislike for religion. I don't think it should surprise anyone based off his lyrics that he's into some wild, crazy occult stuff. I used to be a big fan of Tool and A Perfect Circle back in my music days, and that dude writes almost exclusively about religion and occultism.
You guys, what the heck is this? I'm about done with U.S. grocery stores. Like, I can't with any more.
That's not water, they're spraying. Okay, something that I cannot read, but I'm only assuming. Yeah, man, they're really toying around with the food, and that just... Oh, yeah, like, why the hell, man?
More of these things coming out. This is an Instagram account that basically is showing, like, live footage of when they were at Sprouts. And they looked up to see, like, what was hooked up to the sprayers. You know when you're at the grocery store and they make the thunder sound and then all the water sprays to, like, keep them fresh? Apparently, this is what they're spraying. And let me show you a close-up. This is Produce Max, which is apparently chlorine. And if you're wondering what it is, I looked it up. It's basically something that inhibits mold. So it's a preservative that they're spraying on all of the veggies at Sprouts. This is supposedly safe for consumption without having to, like, wash it off and rinse your veggies.
Damn.
But I'm not going to take the chance. I'm going to rinse my veggies, and I hope you take this as a sign.
Okay, that's normal, though. My mom always, like, she always cleans before. Like, you always got to wash it before. I mean, that's, like, common sense, but still, yeah, people that don't do it, and if you're one of them that don't wash it, you better start washing, man. You better start washing those. So.
To also rinse your veggies. Make sure you're washing the shit out of them.
There's your daily PSA. You may want to be washing off all your vegetables from the grocery store. I live out in the country. Our grocery stores doesn't even have them sprayers. All our vegetables are just dry and wilted like they're supposed to be.
What you're looking at up here is a beetle shell. It's called the elytron. And if you did not know, beetles levitate. They don't fly, they levitate. Watch the wizardry of the beetle.
Oh my god. What
so
the hell?
A moth flies exactly how you would expect, like it swims through the air. Same with flies, they fly horizontally. The beetle flaps out his levitators, jumps in the air, and hopes for the best. You don't really notice it because it happens really fast.
Just hoping for the best. Just hoping for the best. But man, God is insane, man. God's the best, man. God's the goat. God's the greatest. You just look at the creation. Holy. Insane, man.
But when they are about to take off, they flap out the elytra. Moth wings move in a wave, and fly wings move up and down, but beetle wings move side to side just to change the rotational direction that they're going. Elytra react to electromagnetic fields as small as the one that your body produces because of these guys. They're literally little vortex generators inside the shell. Inside the shell are little resonator cavities. A pulse in the cavity creates a wave that can be directed. In our antennas, we direct the beam by delaying the pulse, but the beetle has a shell that's already curved. When you face them together downwards, they create a reflection back up. This was first discovered by Viktor Grebennikov. He studied these beetles and then glued some of their wings to the bottom of a platform and created a levitating platform. You have to lay it out in a certain pattern, but he even had controls on the footboard like a 3D scooter. Now, if you're observant, you might see where he got his inspiration for this little device. Who learned that one in school? Well, you didn't get the education that the ancients got. Their way was teaching through the geometries of nature and conveyed in symbolism. This created a philosophy optimized around the rules of reality. But hey, you got that degree though. It's okay, I got a degree too, I'm still paying that thing off.
Guys, if you do have Instagram or Twitter, it would be my pleasure to have you there. Links are always down below. It would be a pleasure to have you there. Alright, let's get back to the content here, boo.
I wonder if all the beetle symbology in ancient Egypt is because they used some form of this technology to levitate the stones of the pyramids into place. That would be absolutely fascinating. As simple as this idea is, though, you would think that there would be tons of companies out there utilizing this design, trying to come up with anti-gravity crafts. What's the holdup?
How much truth can you face before you run away from it?
Could you imagine?
So one of my favorite quotes comes from Anthony DeMello, and he says that the chances that you wake up are in direct proportion to the amount of truth that you can take without running away. So how much are you ready to take? And history and society have shown us that it's not a lot. This is why most people, even though they don't know it, they're asleep, they're born asleep, they live asleep, they marry in their sleep, they breed children in their sleep, they die in their sleep without ever waking up. Autopilot, NPCs, and we live that way because we don't want to face the truth.
For those of you who caught yesterday's video, which wasn't many of you, sorry about that, I talked at the end about not wanting to have the wool pulled over my eyes with some of this stuff. I think this much better explains the importance, though, of not allowing yourself to be closed off to new ideas.
Do you believe that various presidents have been informed about what you believe to be the truth on UFOs?
The people that control this information is a organization that we know of as MJ-12, and their top group of military and scientists. And I do know that when the president becomes president, it takes at least 3 or 4 months before he actually gets the clearance to know everything there is. Now, that doesn't mean they tell him, but it does take 3 or 4 months to get the quote from Carter when he was during his election campaign: "If I become president, I'll make every piece of information this country has about UFO sightings available to the public."
And I guess, spoiler alert, he did not. And we hear this all the time. All the presidents say that before becoming presidents, that yes, I will talk about them aliens. I will expose the truth, and nobody ever does.
And the scientists. I am convinced that UFOs exist because I have seen one.
Jimmy Carter says he saw one.
That's Jimmy Carter. He saw one in 1973.
But he didn't tell us, did he?
He doesn't. The pressure is enormous on these people to cover this stuff up. The Air Force has made an art form of ridiculing people who have talked about this thing. They've done an excellent job of covering it up for the last 40 years. George, basically...
This gotta be the same time when Bob Lazar also came out, right? Because he's the reporter, George Knapp, that interviewed Bob Lazar and put out his story, right?
What we're dealing with here is, I'll give you the bottom line.
Okay,
I'm not trying to sell it.
I want to hear your thesis.
I'm not trying to sell a book. I'm not trying to promote a lecture. This is based on what I've come across after intense research in the last year. And I have found out that the government has retrieved between 10 and 15 actual flying saucers, 3 of which have been in perfect condition, 1 of which they tried to fly. Up at the test site, there's a report that of the 3 that they got in perfectly good condition, at least 1 is up at the test site and has flown, and 1 was being flown as of 1981.
By us?
By us, yeah.
Damn.
Did anyone else think when he said that the government has retrieved 3 perfectly operational UFOs or flying saucers, did anyone else think about Bob Lazar? And then they said that they've actually been flying one of them? Again, my mind jumped straight to Bob Lazar. This kind of corroborates his story, doesn't it?
It's kind of like the same time frame too, right? And Bob Lazar also did claim that they had, and Bob Lazar also, if I'm not mistaken, during Joe Rogan podcast, he said that he once saw 9 UFOs in like the hangars lined up, right? So he saw them all from afar, but he went into one himself. That's what he claimed, and it was a very ominous feeling, he said, and the color-wise, it was like the same-ish color. Yeah, right? It's insane. It really is insane.
Isn't it? I'm just hoping that Trump releases some of this documentation. Love him or hate him, if anyone was going to have the nerve to actually do it, I think it would be him.
What if the universe didn't just start, but is evidence of booting up the Matrix? In this video, we're going to look at the Big Bang and the possibility that it could provide evidence that we live in a simulation. Now, before the Big Bang, the universe was sitting dormant. Some say it was condensed to the size of a tennis ball and it was like a quadrillion degrees. And an explosion happens and we have the beginning of space and time. What breaks your brain is this foundational core was not sitting in space. Space didn't exist. So what was before the Big Bang? If you ask a physicist, they'll talk about things like dark energy, dark foam, which are just about as understandable as something existing without space and time that created space and time. If you ask a theologian, they will say God created it, which many people will say, what created God? What was before God?
Yeah.
Obviously, our minds have the constraint.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, exactly. That's of course, I'm a believer in God. Some of you are also believers. Some of you are not, which is perfectly fine. And I would love your honest opinion and honest take on this one. Yeah, it's one of those things, right? And this always comes in my mind. Alex J. I'm not gonna say his full name because we're on YouTube, guys. You probably know who I'm talking about. The frog, the water is turning the froggy and all that, right? Like, I don't want to speak like that because it would hurt my throat, but I don't want to try to speak like him. But yeah, he once said that, right? But God doesn't know who created him. Whether you, I'm a believer in God, but like, guys, this is insane thought, right? Like, God, of course, God has given us the ability to think rationally and sometimes not so rationally as well. But it's an insane thought. It's an insane thought, right? Okay, God created everything, but who created God? And I remember Alex once saying that God doesn't know who created him, which is just an insane thought. Insane.
Constraints of time, and so we have to have the beginning and we have to have an end. But one possible explanation of the beginning is that the Big Bang was actually just the booting up of a program. What is the program? It is all the laws of the universe. This is Max Tegmark. He's an MIT cosmologist, and he says the strict laws of nature, physics, and different things point to the likelihood that we live in a simulation. In fact, science, philosophy, mathematics, spirituality, it is all our attempt to decode the coding that operates the simulation. People often describe mathematics as the language of the universe. What if it's just the coding? We are just trying to re-engineer the simulation that we live within. Well, hear me out. What if the fact that the smartest people in our world right now, they look at the beginning of the universe and all they can say is, I don't know. There's just evidence that there was a massive explosion where space and time began to exist from that. Hear me out. If the Sims somehow came conscious, wouldn't that be akin to them just being like, listen, we don't know why we're here. We just know one day somebody turned something on, fired up the old Xbox, and now we exist. And I just want to note really quickly.
Yeah, right. Like, it's an insane thought. It really is an insane thought. It's like when you're a baby, you don't even know, right? It's like all of a sudden you gain consciousness and you're like, okay, well, here I am. You look yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm really up in this beach. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's insane, man. It is crazy, man. The world is crazy.
The fact that a lot of people who believe in simulation theory are also staunch atheists, I think is a little bit contradictory because it's not mutually exclusive. I mean, why would it have to be that either God created this or we're in a simulation? God could be the source of the simulation. But what if the start of all of this is just him pressing that power button and turning it on?
I swear everything is pointing to us being in a simulation. It's starting to look like it's the most likely scenario. I do agree with him that that does not disprove a God, though. If we live in a simulation or a projected reality, as all the evidence seems to point to, then it would only make sense that someone had to create that simulation or that projection. Something like that popping into existence would make way less sense than physical matter popping into existence. You're talking about a complex system that's in place from inception. That sounds much more complicated than cells mutating over billions of years.
Bro, someone make the Pentagon get their story straight. We have intelligence officers saying that we have non-human biologics that we...
This is what we started this video off with, right? Yeah, David Grush. He said that US recovered non-human biologics from UFO crash sites. Former Intel official says, okay, this should be interesting. So this article was posted last year in 2023. Let me know what year you guys are watching this video.
We've gotten from UFO crashes. These are all intelligence officers or Air Force officers, and they're not just saying this. This is in front of Congress. I mean, you go try to talk to Congress, if they won't even let you in the door, so these guys have something. But then when you go look at the Pentagon's official stance, they say the UFOs are not extraterrestrial. I mean, the report states the office found no evidence that these UAP sightings represent extraterrestrial technology. What the hell are they? What are they?
Yeah.
Bro, the military released videos of these things breaking physics, and they have the audacity to say, nah, don't even worry about it. What? 2 minutes of Googling on the FBI website, and you'll find documents talking about recovered saucers and 3-foot tall bodies dressed in metallic stuff similar to blackout suits pilots use, but fine metallic textures. They don't even know what they're wearing. They don't even know what it's made out of. This is so stupid. I mean, they can't think we're this stupid. This is insane. I don't have words. And I mean, they've clearly been around a long time. Here's first-hand accounts you can find on a .gov website talking about them loading these saucer parts on...
Carrying parts of what I heard was the crash flying saucer. Wait, what? Okay, let me get to the last sentence there. When he was told it was... Blanchard waved to somebody and approximately 5 people came in the front door, down the hallway, and on the ramp to climb into the airplane. Carrying parts of what I heard was the crash flying saucer. Sheesh.
To bomber airplanes to take them to Texas. I mean, this guy was just on the plane. He saw it and he wasn't supposed to, and this is on the government's website. Or that dude Bob Lazar that's been telling us about these and drawing them and saying exactly the orientation of how they fly, and he was right. He's been talking about this for like 40 years. That guy claims to work at Area 51. By the way, if you've ever seen these planes at the airport in Nevada, that's taking people to Area 51. It's called Janet Airlines.
Guys, check out this video on the screen. We recently had some new footage released of these UFOs. I think you guys are really gonna be perplexed and baffled. Literally, check it out and I'll see you right there.